Well, good morning everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. We're doing another airport review for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and today we're in Albania. We're at Tirana International Airport, sometimes known as Runways. It's Lima Alpha Tango, India. This is a payware version scenery by MXI Design. Now the download is 1.6 gigabytes and it installs at 4.94 gigabytes, just below 5 gigs. Now, price from Sim Market, if you purchase from Sim Market, it's €20.39, which equates to roughly $22.02 US, or £17.09 UK. These prices include VAT or tax, which will vary depending on your country of purchase. Scenery is available from both Sim Market and Orbix. The prices are similar, there's not an awful lot in it, but the prices are quite similar, and obviously it can be purchased at both areas, both locations. This scenery not to be confused with the other scenery of Tirana released for Flight Simulator 20 by a company called Salvus, which obviously is cheaper. In many ways the Salvus airport is also perfectly adequate. It's just as good in many ways, although it's a smaller, less detailed scenery. But at €14.40 including tax, the other scenery by Salvus is perfectly acceptable and will do the job. However, today's review is about the MXI Design version, coming in at just over €20. Now, just before we get started, there are some issues with this airport. It's very nice from a pilot's point of view. It has pretty much everything you need, as most of these airports do, and that's fine. But as for the experience of flying in and out of the airport, it is tempered a bit, because here there's extensive use of photo ground mapping, ground scenery. And whilst in some places it works, in many places it doesn't, and we'll go into that in a minute. But let's start with a bit of history for you. So Tirana International Airport, often referred to as Runways International, is one of the two main international airports in the Republic of Albania. It serves the city of Tirana, its metropolitan area and the surrounding region. The airport is named after the world-famous Albanian Roman Catholic nun and missionary Mother Teresa. The airport is located 6 miles or 11 kilometers northwest of the city of Tirana in the municipality of Cluj, Durrës County. It offers international connections primarily within Europe, with the most frequent routes to Milan, Rome, London and Istanbul. So the airport was constructed between 1955 and 1957, but domestic aviation began in 1926 when the German airline Adria Aero Lloyd obtained a monopoly for domestic air routes in the country and began servicing Tirana, Shruda, Kos and Vlore. I'll put those names up in case I haven't said them correctly. These operations proved unprofitable, and the airline sold its rights to the Italian company Alla Littoria, which opened regular routes in 1935 between Tirana and those locations I've just discussed, as well as a few others. In 1938, the Yugoslav carrier Aeroput introduced regular commercial flights linking Tirana with Belgrade in Serbia and with Dubrovnik in Croatia. After World War II, and with an isolationist and communist regime in Albania, air transportation was rare. From 1944 and 1948 there was a service to Belgrade, but after the breakup of relations with Yugoslavia, until 1953 there was only a twice-a-month connection to Budapest, operated by the Soviet-Hungarian company Mazovlet. From 1953 until around 1955 there was no air service at all, until in February of 1955 when a route to Moscow was inaugurated, followed thereafter to other Eastern European capitals. In the 1970s, Tirana was one of the first European cities to be served by China's CAAC Airlines, with a weekly flight to Beijing via Bucharest and Tehran. In the late 1980s, there were 6 airlines flying to Tirana, with a total of 9 round trips each week. With the collapse of communism in Albania in 1991 and subsequent liberalisation of travel restrictions abroad for Albanians, the number of airlines operating at the airport increased rapidly. In 1999 there were over 8,000 flights and over 356,000 passengers, 7 times more than in 1991. The air traffic equipment and facilities of the airport have been heavily modernised following investments by Tirana International Airport SHPK, a consortium led by Hochtief Airport. Hochtief assumed management of the airport in April of 2005 for a 20-year concession period. The concession included construction of a complete new passenger terminal and various infrastructure improvements, among them the construction of a new access road, new parking lots and a bridge over the old airport access road. Expansion resulted in an increased number of passengers per annum, estimated at over 1.5 million passengers for 2009. By December 2016, the airport announced that it had served over 2 million passengers that year, reaching its second milestone. In 2017, China Everbright Limited became the sole owner of Tirana International Airport, after reaching an agreement with the Albanian government to end its monopoly on international flights from Albania. Hochtief Airport sold the operating contract of the airport to China Everbright Limited, the latter being a company specialising in asset management, direct investment, brokerage and investment banking. In December of 2020, Castrati Group bought all the shares of the airport from China Everbright Limited for €71 million. The airport serves as a main hub for the country's flag carrier Air Albania and also for both Alba Wings and Wizz Air. Now the largest and busiest airport in Albania, Tirana offers regular scheduled passenger service and is the 7th busiest Balkan airport. In 2021, the airport served over 2.9 million passengers and operated over 26,000 aircraft movements. Over 30 airlines operate into and out of Tirana, including Air France, British Airways, EasyJet, flydubai, Lufthansa and TUI. So I've lowered the light, let's look at the runways. So Tirana Airport operates a single runway, 1735, which is 9,009 feet or 2,746 metres long and is made from asphalt. And we're currently looking down runway 17. Both ends of the runway feature high intensity airfield lighting system and precision approach path indicators, 1 bar on the left side of the runways, which you can see here. Runway 17 features the newer, longer HAILS approach lighting and is equipped with a standard instrument landing system as well as a VOR approach option. Now I've looked at the two runways, and in the scenery the approach lights are exactly the same, whereas here on runway 17 they should be the longer version that extends out and the shorter version on the other end, which we'll look at in a moment. So that's a slight real difference in the scenery. But as you can see, there's enough lighting here really for you to make a safe landing in the low light conditions. So here we are looking down runway 35 at the other end. Runway 35, according to the charts, has the older, slightly shorter HAILS approach lighting system. As you can see here, it's exactly the same as the other one. And also the runway has just the VOR approach option available only. There's no ILS at this end of the runway. Whilst the airport is located in a beautiful setting, there is high ground to the east which pilots must be aware of. As you can see, there's high ground all over the place here. And actually the airport's in a very beautiful setting, but this is something that you must be aware of. So there's a history for you. Tirana International Airport, sometimes known as Rinat Airport, the busiest airport in Tirana in Albania. Scenery by MXI Design, not to be confused by the other scenery by Suarez. So let's get down and have a close look at this airport here and see what's good about it and what isn't so good. So I want to start by doing a quick run across the Airside Ramp. This airport uses photoground scenery extensively, and in some areas it works and in some areas it really doesn't. So we look at Airside first. Here it's not too bad, but here you can see photo planes sitting all over the place. the buildings that they've decided to show, they've not really developed much in the way of ground scenery around them. Here you've got more aircraft shadows, and somewhere up here, in fact here it is, there's an aircraft shadow biting into the taxiway, which doesn't look very good, to be honest. Now let's travel back across the landside part of the airport and let's see what we've got. Again, as you can see, photo scenery out here is not too bad at all, works really well. Here you've got more plane shadows, and here you get to see more of the aircraft shadows I was showing you earlier. This really doesn't help. Another one there. And here again you've got extensive use of photo scenery for the car parks and the landside road, which in my opinion really doesn't look very professional. Could have done a lot more with this. The landside is nicely developed, but a huge use of photo scenery here just makes it look pretty dreadful. Just my opinion, of course, but as I said, could have been done much better. So let's go across the airside ramp a little bit slower and a little bit lower and have a close look at what we've got. As you can see, it's not bad at all. There's a real kind of lack of ground clutter. Buses are good, and the buildings, generally the standard modelling is really good, including the fence line here. That is the old control tower as per the charts. Here we come to the main terminal building. There's my aircraft. As you can see, it's not bad at all. Perfectly acceptable. Modelling's quite good. Everything's crisp and clear, including the signage there. So from a pilot's point of view, when you arrive here and turn up, it's perfectly okay. It's great. There's probably the right amount of people, bits and pieces. And here we come towards the fire station. Now, as far as I understand it, the current chart that Jefferson chart I'm looking at, which is April 2021, shows this as being not on the charts basically. So this must be the new control tower. The one we just passed, I think, was the old one. Not entirely certain. It's a bit confusing really, but let's go inside and have a look and see if there's any development. And as you can see, there is. And inside looks perfectly okay, except the windows are pretty dreadful. Here you've got some kind of image from a simulator or something. This looks like a pilot in a chair with straps on, replacing the windows. You can't see outside the terminal at all. As you can see, there's an image behind there. It looks like a pilot sat in a seat, which basically makes it impossible to see outside. Really not sure about that. In fact, there I go. I've just zoomed up on the window before we actually exit the tower, and here you can see the image that's being splashed on the window. So that needs to be fixed. As you can see here, we've got aircraft shadows rather than aircraft themselves all over the place, which basically doesn't look too good at all. These roads really could have been developed properly, which would have made it a whole lot better. And here again, looking in this direction from airside to landside, here you've got some really beautiful modelling, nice construction, which is kind of spoilt by the photoground scenery. If this had been properly developed and modelled, it would have looked so much better, particularly as what you're going to see landside and in the terminal in a moment. This really is kind of the downside of the scenery for me. It's okay. Of course it's okay, it looks perfectly okay, but basically an opportunity's been missed here. This could have been a really super stunning scenery if this had been developed as well, and as such it's not as good as it could be. Anyway, let's look at some of the positives. As you can see, building construction work looks great. The trees look good, animated flags, car models are excellent. Love the palm trees. And this would look really good but for the fact that it's on photo scenery. Again, we go towards the landside part of the terminal. Modelling is lovely. I mean, this looks really nice, but again it's spoiled somewhat by this photoground scenery. These roads really could have been developed more. And when you get towards the terminal, look, we have animated people, wonderful modelling. It really is brilliant, beautiful modelling here. Very sharp, crisp signage. As you can see, everything down to the pizza restaurant just outside the terminal. People standing around talking to each other. Looks great. And here again, the quality of signage, you know, the buildings, the texturing is really, really, really good. They've done a lot of work here. And there, look, you've even got the sign changing. I mean, that is excellent. That's a nice touch. So just some quick shots of the landside part of the building here. As you can see, it looks great. It looks really nice. But it's just, when you get outside here, this is just spoiled by the fact they've got the photo road, when really it should be done really nicely. There's your taxis, taxi signs. Again, the road could have been developed better. So let's go inside the terminal, see what we've got. As you can see, the inside's lovely, very nicely done. People walking about. There's a security area. Don't think I've ever seen a security area so quiet. Departure signs, again, beautifully crisp and clear, very nicely done. There's the check-in area. And some shop facades there, and a car that you can win. More desks. And more check-in desks. So let's go airside. So here we are airside, there's the duty-free shop there, information desk. In fact, no, it's a restaurant, isn't it, here? More signage, here's the gates. It's another little restaurant. And here's the gates of people waiting for the flight. There's my aircraft outside. The glass kind of doesn't really work for me. I mean, it's okay, but it's a bit too dark. It's not. Just a bit too dark to show the outside properly. I don't know how this is in real life. Maybe somebody can tell me in the comments. But it looks a little bit. It just doesn't look right. But there you go. Look across the airside part there. This is the departure lounge, lots of people milling around, and little restaurant and shops, bits and pieces. And here's the other end of that part of the terminal with the security area, some people milling around. And then the arrival side here, you can see the baggage carousels with people waiting for their baggage to come out. So here we are, just going along the landside entrance, the airside entrance of the building. Now again, you can see into the terminal, but the glass, I just don't know. It doesn't look right, and you know, it's almost as if it really shouldn't be there, because you can see in, but not really very well. Again, maybe somebody can tell me in the comments if this is how it's meant to be. Airside road looks fine. Ground markings are okay. They're not sharp by any means, but they're okay. As you can see, the stand number there, Tango 3. It's not as sharp as it could be. So let's just get out onto the airfield a little bit. Let's have a look at the signage and ground markings generally. These look a bit sharper. So we've got a runway ahead. So this obviously must be an exit. This clearly isn't going to be used for you to go onto the runway. There you can see the signs going onto the apron. They look quite acceptable. Again, we've got the blue edge lights, so I suspect when the light goes down you'll have a fairly decent idea of the edge of the airfield. And here you go, runway warning signs again. They look perfectly acceptable to me. And your taxiway signs showing the exits from the runway. So just looking down the runway, there's the VOR right in the middle there. And as I said, this airport seems to have two control towers. Not sure which is the newer one. I suspect this might be, I don't know, because they've done the inside on this one and it looks pretty impressive. But then you have this one, which is actually marked on the charts and looks a lot newer, to be honest. But when you look inside there's nothing inside that building, unfortunately. So as you can see, general overview there. Well, the airport looks great. They've done a marvellous job with the terminal inside and exterior and around the outside environment. But the whole thing to a huge extent is let down by low resolution photo scenery here. Some of this really should have been developed. In my considered opinion, it would be nice to see these roads, these parking areas here, developed into 3D roads or modelled roads, whatever you want to call them, like they've done with the terminal. It would improve this hugely and make it so much better, in my opinion. They also need to get rid of the photo planes sitting all over the airport, but to be honest, they spoil it for me. So there we go, we've had a quick look at the airport during the daylight. It's just after midday here in the Balkans. And as you can see, the airport sits in a lovely location. There's still probably lots to see. Be nice to take a helicopter trip around here. But let's lower the light down now to dusk and let's have a look at the lighting here and see how good it is. Okay, just before 7:30 local time, and as you can see, the sun has now dipped below the horizon and the lights have started to come on. From this point of view, it looks quite nice. It's quite subtle, like you see with most airports. And here you can see the blue airfield edge signs come up quite nicely, and some subtle lighting around the ramp. So here's just close to the threshold of runway 17. Again, the runway lighting looks okay. Can't see any edge lighting on the runway, but you've got blue edge lights, airfield lights here, which denote the area, and the runway has the centerline light. Your exit signs are lit, but there's no green centerline taxi lights that I can see here. So a closer look at the taxiway exit there. Again, signage is okay, but as you can see, I can confirm there are no green centerline taxi lights that I can see. So nice lighting there, and you've got these great big lights up here. They're actually not throwing out much in the way of light. It may look better in the dark when we go to night time, but we'll see. This is quite interesting here. This is well lit up, this vehicle, and you can see its headlights reflected there, which is something I've not seen before. So that's interesting. Now looking towards the main terminal area here. So okay, we've got these big overhead lights and they kind of just about light this area. But at this time of the day, again, you're not going to have any problems parking your aircraft and seeing where you're going. Interesting thing to note in this view, this control tower, which internally is not modelled, is lit up nicely. I'm under the impression this is probably the newer tower, whereas the old one there, or the other tower, which is developed inside, is dark as anything. We're going to have a look at that in a bit. But again, as you can see, nice subtle lighting. Let's come up a bit. And again, little just touches, subtle lighting, bits and pieces on the buildings generally here and there. Lots of Asobo globes all over the place. But again, low resolution ground scenery kind of spoils the whole effect, in my opinion. So a little run across the airside ramp. As you can see, lighting looks okay. There's my aircraft, there's the airside part of the terminal. Not too bad at all. Let's go and have a look at the tower while we're here. As you can see, there's a number of buildings that aren't lit. Tower building has some lighting. Right, so now we're in a situation where the inside is flooded with light, but you can't see anything outside. That's a pity. So, traversing landside here towards the terminal, which is the nicest part of the scenery that we can see in terms of development. So that is quite a nice shot. As you can see, people, you can see through the glass. Maybe the glass was designed in such a way that it looked better in the darkness than it does during the day in terms of modelling. Again, I'm not a developer, so I don't know. Maybe somebody can answer that, I'm not sure. Let's go inside. Okay, we now have a situation where the people are completely obliterated by the additional light inside the terminal. That's a real pity. As you can see, the lighting inside the terminals are really bright, which in some ways is correct, that's as it should be, but it's essentially obliterated your animated passengers. As you can see outside, it's a different story. Passengers are perfectly okay, lovely lighted signs. It's just this is a nice little image outside of the terminal. Looks very, very nice. And looking in the direction there, you see the people up on the top, and you can see the sign there that changes. This is the nice part of it. So just an overview of the airport there, looking towards the threshold of runway 35 in the distance. You can see the edge lighting which denotes the airport boundary. And looking in the other direction, as you can see, is perfectly fine. But you should see, this is where it kind of falls down a bit really. Lots of low resolution texturing here, photo scenery, with buildings sat on top of it, which just really doesn't look right. To some extent I can accept out here, it's a big job to develop this. Other developers have done it, they haven't here, but here you've got the road adjacent to the airport. And the internal roads that just haven't been given any treatment really. See, this is a beautiful little shot, but it's spoilt because this road's been done reasonably. I don't know if that's how it should look. There's no markings on the road, but this has just been let go. This just doesn't, it kind of spoils the whole effect. In terms of what Flight Simulator 2020 offers us, and as seen by other developers, this really could be so much better. Okay, let's pop to night time, have a look at the lighting, see whether it comes up anymore. Okay, 9:10 at night now, local time. As you can see, the lighting has come up, not by much, but it's come up enough. So looking out towards the runway, there you can see the runway centre line and the blue edge lights denoting the airfield boundary, so taxiways shouldn't be too bad. To a great extent you're also going to rely on your nose gear light when taxiing around here. So just looking at the ramp stand where my aircraft is parked, there's adequate lighting here on the stand where my aircraft is parked. This all looks a little bit close, but I think it's a case of a little bit of a clash between the Asobo models and the models and the airport in the scenery development. Again, nice view inside the terminal, but as you can see, all of the animated people are just completely dark. They haven't, I don't really think they've got the lighting correct inside here. You've got a couple of guys with a catering truck with a nice little bit of lighting coming from the lit vehicle. And looking towards the control tower on the left there, as I said, this looks to be the older one, although it's nicely lit and it's developed inside. And all of this looks okay, but yeah, just, you know, it's okay, that's all I can say really. And looking towards the other direction, here's the other control tower, which looks to be the newer one, and there's nothing inside it. And again, some of the buildings aren't lit, or there's just subtle lighting around. Some of it works and some of it doesn't. That's something I didn't see before. There's, you've got radar going around there and the animated flag. And there we are looking towards the main terminal landside. Again, it looks lovely in the lighting at night. It looks lovely, but once you go inside the terminal, all the passengers are essentially wiped out. Looks very nice. Generally, they've done a nice job on the terminal interior. Animated passengers is a nice touch. The foliage looks good. This area looks to be the nicest part of the scenery, but there is so much that's been left that hasn't been done. So they're looking towards the threshold of runway 35, the other direction towards the south. Just a little bit look of the lighting. The lighting's generally okay, but like I said, it would have been so much better if these roads and the sort of the area had been worked on a bit more. Could have made it into a cracking scenery. So there's a last look from high altitude there of the airport and the runway area at night. It's now 9:20, getting on to the late hours, and it looks okay. It looks perfectly okay. Nothing to write home about, but it looks okay. So let's turn the lighting up to dawn and have a look. So as with most sceneries, the low lighting, dawn times, generally the airport sort of comes to life visually, and here you can see it's very, very nice. It looks really nice. It actually looks so much better, despite the photo scenery, which seems to show up a bit more. This doesn't look too bad. We're looking just before the lights sort of go out, and you've got the mountains in the distance with the city of Tirana in the way off there to the right. That's quite a nice view. Let's just turn the light up a bit more. Okay, 8:20 in the morning now. As you can see, the sun is nicely high in the sky, and there you can see across the airport generally. So let's give you my thoughts. Do I think this is a good airport? Like most, it's fine. It's everything you need as a pilot to fly in here, and the scenery is perfectly acceptable. Do I think it's worth 20 euros? No, I don't. It's probably worth about 16, maybe 15 euros. I don't think it's worth that much. Okay, they've done a huge job on the terminal itself. Animated people, landside, and various buildings that have been constructed and that look quite good, and that's the plus side. Unfortunately, a lot of it is spoilt by a huge amount of photo ground scenery, much of which near the terminal that should have been developed isn't. Even the car parks are ground photo scenery mapped. There are lots of photo aeroplanes lying all over the airport which really shouldn't be there. Not really sure which of the two control towers is the one that is the newest and the one that should be working. There's an anomaly inside this tower. When you look out of it, it's got some kind of a picture of a pilot sitting on the windows, and you can't even see out of it. And once you turn the lighting down, those beautiful animated people and interiors of the terminal, the people just go dark. They're completely obliterated by the light change. So they need to look very carefully at their lighting and how they do it when the time of day changes. Lastly, probably the least important really, you got the two runway ends, and the runway 35, which has the shorter approach light system. Shouldn't be the same as runway 17, but actually they both are. But again, that's not really a problem. You know, you've got approach lighting, PAPIs, ILS on one end of the runway, and plenty of ground lighting that will enable you to make a landing in low light conditions at this airport and taxi into the terminal and park up. No problems there at all. So from the pilot enjoyment experience point of view, it's fine. But in terms of the airport experience, you've got to go into the terminal or land side of it to enjoy the work that has been done. Stray too far outside and you'll encounter lots of photo map scenery, which spoils the whole thing for me. Do I like this airport? Yeah, of course I do. It's at the end of the day, it's an addition to Flight Simulator 2020, and it's going to upgrade the default airport into something much better. I think my biggest grief about this and many other sceneries is that the opportunities that Flight Simulator 2020 afford developers are there for the taking, and in many cases, this one's a good example, they've not been taken. It's only half done. They've done enough that they think looks good, and yet we'll put a price on it and we can make a sale. Price is too high. It's about €4 or €5 too high for what's been done, in my opinion. If they take this back and work on the landside road and get rid of a lot of the photo scenery that surrounds the major part of the airport, and improve a lot of things like take away those photo aeroplanes, improve the lighting change, then we're talking a different story. Then €20 becomes very acceptable, because it's all about the flying experience. It's a simulator after all, and we're trying to simulate the real world. And some developers do a good job, and some developers do a good job on just a small part of it and completely leave the rest of it and stick a few buildings here and there and think that that's it. I'm sorry if that sounds too harsh, but Flight Simulator 2020 has raised the bar. With the advent of the PMDG 737, which is imminent, which is going to blow us all away, and we've already got aircraft like the DC Designs Concorde and the fly-by-wire A320X, these are almost study level for a simulation like this. This is closest to realism we can get. So when people start designing airports, they need to look to how well they can do it. It needs to be pretty real. You can't do half a job. And in some sceneries, that's what they've done. This is probably one of them. It's a little too expensive for my taste, but just a reminder, I wasn't sent this. I went out and bought it, and so I own it, and the comments are my own. They're not influenced by anybody else. However, that said, it's another upgrade to the default scenery in Flight Sim 2020 for this airport, and therefore it's an improvement. It's great. It's acceptable for what it is. I just think it's a little overpriced, and I think more work needs to be done to it to make this a really good airport. At the moment, it's just adequate in terms of what Flight Sim 2020 can offer us. So there you go, Tirana International Airport in Albania by MXI Design, available at both SimMarket and Orbix, not to be confused with the other scenery of the same location for the same simulator by a different company, which is a bit cheaper, and to be honest, I haven't reviewed that. I've had a look at the screenshots, and the screenshots look perfectly okay. You may find different, we'll see. Happy for you to leave comments for me, and I'll try to answer them. Perhaps somebody can tell me which of these two control towers is the newest and the one that should be operating, and there we go. Anyway, this is Lee, your virtual airline pilot, wrapping up another review. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you found this useful. Apologise if it's been a bit harsh, but unfortunately I was expecting more and I didn't get it. So there you go, guys, have a great weekend, enjoy your flying as I will, and we await the PMDG 737. Take care, bye for now.